Ascribe to the Lord, you heavenly beings. Ascribe to the Lord glory and strength. Ascribe to the Lord the glory due his name. Worship the Lord in the splendor of his holiness. The voice of the Lord is over the waters. The God of glory thunders. The Lord thunders over the mighty waters. The voice of the Lord is powerful. The voice of the Lord is majestic. The voice of the Lord breaks the cedars. The Lord breaks in pieces the cedars of Lebanon. He makes Lebanon leap like a calf, Syrian like a young wild ox. The voice of the Lord strikes with flashes of lightning. The voice of the Lord shakes the desert. The Lord shakes the desert of Kadesh. The voice of the Lord twists the oaks and strips the forests bare. And in his temple all cry, "Glory!" The Lord sits enthroned over the flood. The Lord is enthroned as king forever. The Lord gives strength to his people. The Lord blesses his people with peace. This psalm, often regarded as Psalm 29, is a powerful hymn of praise that emphasizes the mighty and majestic nature of God's voice and presence in the world. It opens with an exaltation for the heavenly beings to recognize and honor the Lord's glory and strength. The emphasis on ascribing glory to the Lord is a call to acknowledge his supreme power and the majesty that is inherent in his name. To ascribe in this context means to attribute or give credit, acknowledging God's rightful glory and power, which highlights his holiness and divine nature. This part of the psalm sets the tone for the entire message, inviting all who hear or read it to participate in a cosmic chorus of worship and adoration. As the psalm progresses, it vividly describes the voice of the Lord as a force that is both awesome and awe-inspiring. The psalmist portrays God's voice as being over the waters, a metaphorical image representing chaos and the primordial elements of creation. In ancient Near Eastern thought, the waters often symbolized chaos or the unknown, and by saying God's voice is over the waters, the psalmist is expressing God's supreme authority over creation. The description of God's voice thundering over the mighty waters suggests power, control, and dominance, reinforcing the idea that nothing in nature is beyond his command. The imagery continues with the depiction of the Lord's voice as powerful and majestic. This suggests not only strength, but also a certain royal grandeur that accompanies the divine interaction with the world. The psalmist uses vivid natural imagery to illustrate the might of God's voice. It breaks the cedars, specifically mentioning the cedars of Lebanon, which were known for their size and strength in the ancient world. By declaring that God's voice can shatter these mighty trees, the psalmist is conveying a sense of God's irresistible power. The reference to the Lord making Lebanon leap like a calf and Syrian like a young wild ox uses personification and metaphor to describe the dynamic and lively impact of God's voice on the earth. Lebanon and Syrian are geographical locations, and their mention here underscores the vastness of God's influence, extending across regions and natural landscapes. The image of these places as animated and reacting to God's presence portrays his voice as a life-giving and energizing force. The psalm continues with further portrayals of the strength and authority of the Lord's voice, describing its effects in terms of natural phenomena such as lightning and earthquakes. The voice strikes with flashes of lightning and shakes the desert, emphasizing both the visual and auditory manifestations of God's power. The mention of the desert of Kadesh is symbolic of God's power reaching into even the desolate and remote parts of the earth. This theophany of God's voice is powerful enough to twist oaks and strip forests bare, suggesting a transformative and perhaps purifying effect. The language here conveys an overwhelming power that brings about change and transformation, echoing throughout the natural world and leaving a tangible impact. In